Keep listening for This Just In from Outdoors environmental news from the Monterey Bay, only on KZSE Santa Cruz. KZSC.
Now, young fellas, been having a lot of fun around here today, haven't you? You know what makes this all possible? This forest around us. We should all be thankful for our forest.
Thanks for listening to This Just In from Outdoors. This week, we review the latest on the rash of wildfires in Sonoma, Napa, and Mendocino counties, and celebrate the reopening of the Pfeiffer Canyon Bridge on Highway 1, destroyed after wildfires and landslides struck Big Sur. Plus headlines, a calendar of events, and more. Stick around.
This Just In from Outdoors.
Last Tuesday, the Carmel City Council proposed an amendment to the municipal code that would effectively ban the use of plastic straws in restaurants. In addition to straws, the amendment would target reform towards the city's codes on chlorofluorocarbons, polystyrene, and other inorganic materials. The push for a ban on straws stems from a desire to shift towards plant-based products in Carmel, and would make it the first Monterey Peninsula town to do so. Failure to comply with the proposed standards could result in fines placed against food vendors and restaurants, unless those businesses could prove that they had supported environmentally safe products equal to the amount of said fine. If passed, the amendment could take total effect in late April of next year.
The California Department of Pesticide Regulation released their new recommended interim mitigations of the neurotoxic chemical chlorpyrifos to the state's county agricultural commissioners on October 3rd. These new regulations are recommended limitations which would minimize the usage of the pesticide chlorpyrifos in the production of agricultural commodities. Last November, the Environmental Protection Agency made the decision to ban all usage of the chemical, calling it unsafe in any amount. This April, however, that decision was revoked. In response, farm and health workers rallied against the usage of this pesticide and called for Governor Jerry Brown to step in and call for the complete elimination of the usage chlorpyrifos in the state of California. They referenced the information released by the EPA, which cites that the usage of chlorpyrifos causes irreparable neurological and respiratory damage, especially for young children and those who are pregnant. Mark Weller, the co-director of Californians for Pesticide Reform, has said these new restrictions do not go nearly far enough to protect individuals from the harmful effects of chlorpyrifos and does not take into account drift exposure to the chemical. He has called the mitigations a stark betrayal against the health and safety of Californians.
Last Saturday, the community-based organization Public Water Now rallied in Laguna Grande Park in Seaside. Public Water Now decries the current situation surrounding the California American Water Company, CalAM, and its practices as a private company. The group would like to return control of the regional water supply to the community as well as drive costs down and improve overall water quality. Among their arguments, PWN claims that individuals paying for water in the Monterey Peninsula area have been subject to cost increases of nearly 70% to their water bills, and that CalAM charged a collective $40 million to make up for lost revenue during periods of drought. PWN is putting forward a measure to be included in the November 2018 ballot entitled Measure H2O.
The sight of police appearing to clear out the homeless encampment outside the downtown Santa Cruz post office caused an explosion of momentary joy on the Facebook page of community group Take Back Santa Cruz Wednesday morning. However, by afternoon, the Water Street side of the building was once again demarked by a solid row of umbrellas, backpacks, tents, and other items, causing the comments to turn furious, accusing the police department of making empty promises at a community meeting on Tuesday evening in the Upper West Side neighborhood. KZSE spoke with one person on the scene willing to momentarily represent the transient tenants around 6 on Wednesday evening.
They've asked us to leave before, and our response is, we have no problem with complying with your order to move, but where are we supposed to go? We don't have anywhere to go.
No tickets were issued or arrests made on Wednesday, according to people KZSE interviewed on the scene. And new police chief Andy Mills said in July he has no intent to ticket people specifically for illegal camping.
If I'm a poor person, I get a $200 fine, for instance, for illegal camping. What I've done is said to that person, there's no hope, even push you further to the fringes.
Mills called KZSE back on Thursday morning to clear up the whole misunderstanding from the day before. He said that the operation yesterday was to clean up the street underneath where the people are camping as is scheduled for the downtown area on a regular basis. He said they've been saturating the area with mental health services and drug rehabilitation services, surveying people, and laying the groundwork for future action. He did not elaborate exactly on what that future action will be, but but said that they are not at that point yet. By Wednesday afternoon, commenters on the Facebook post of Take Back Santa Cruz were laying down unsubstantiated claims such as people being shipped in here to be homeless from other areas such as San Jose. The fact is, it's very hard to die of heat stroke in the summer in Santa Cruz and very difficult to die of freezing in the winter, making it a desirable place to live for people who can afford homes and those who can't. Also, the claim that we should ship them back to places that they came from is an unsustainable goal considering there are homeless people in every city on the earth. KZSE will continue to watch this story as it develops, and this reporter is willing to talk to people of all viewpoints who are willing to go on the record. Interested parties are invited to write to news@kzse.org.
Several major wildfires sprung up this week across Northern California, and the wind-driven blazes have together burned over 220,000 acres as of Friday afternoon. Officials have confirmed at least 31 deaths, and more than 5,700 homes and businesses have burned to the ground. President Trump has approved a federal disaster declaration, and the decision was announced on Tuesday by Vice President Pence during his briefing by the California Office of Emergency Services. California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, Chief Ken Pimlott says close to 8,000 firefighters have been deployed. The Tubbs fire started at around 10 p.m. Sunday night, fueled by strong winds out of the north. This blew embers into densely populated neighborhoods in Santa Rosa, as explained by Chief Pimlott.
These fires started after 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. People are sleeping, and they burned so quickly, there was no time to notify anybody. These fires came down into neighborhoods before anybody even realized the fires were occurring in many cases. And so these people ran out of their homes literally with minutes notice, and so literally barely the clothes on their back.
A red flag warning has been issued for Friday evening, when winds are expected to increase across most of Northern California, with gusts of up to 45 miles per hour and extremely dry conditions that could cause extreme fire behavior in all of the major incidents. A red flag warning is the highest alert issued by the National Weather Service. During these times, extreme caution is urged by all residents because a simple spark can cause a major wildfire. The Atlas Peak fire in Napa County and the Nuns fire in Sonoma also started late Sunday night, and both are now larger than 45,000 acres. Firefighting operations have been focused on the southern ends of these fires to prevent them from expanding in case the north winds resume. Investigators are examining the probable causes of these fires, but lightning is not high on their list of suspects, as 95% of California's fires are caused by arsonists or negligent persons, as California Highway Patrol Commissioner Warren Stanley explains.
Please, 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 if you're smoking in your car, please do not throw your cigarettes out your window. Use your ashtrays to dispose of your cigarettes. There's a lot of dry fuel out there, and it doesn't take much to get a fire started.
The National Guard has been activated to help in the region with security, providing emergency communication services, and in distributing fuel where the power is out. Law enforcement has been focused on making sure that people stay out of evacuated areas, not only because they are still dangerous, but also to prevent any looting of the evacuated homes.
We have zero tolerance for people that are entering these properties illegally. The looters will not be tolerated whatsoever. And so obviously we don't want people not walking in these areas, not just because of the hazard, but because it's a crime to trespass on somebody's property. When we hear of reports of looting, law enforcement works very closely locally and at the state level to take that very seriously.
California State Senate Majority Leader Bill Monning was interviewed by KZSC Friday morning on the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club, and he had this reaction to the wildfire disaster.
Very concerned about our neighbors to the north. It's an unfolding, continuing disaster.
Is any part of this contained yet?
Certain areas they've been able to put up walls of firefighters to protect structures, but it's still... a lot of it's not contained. They're just able to direct some of the direction, but as of yesterday afternoon, they had evacuation orders as far inland as Fairfield and Vacaville.
Really?
By Route 80. Yeah, so
it's blowing bad still.
Yeah, blowing, and it's a combination of dry weather conditions, dry fuel, and winds. And the air quality, of course, is bad. All of the Bay Area, even down here, we've been getting some of it. But East Bay schools yesterday were on not letting children out in the playgrounds because of the air quality. As we know, the death toll continues to rise, with many still missing, and over 2,000 homes lost. So,
Wow.
Really unprecedented, even with some of our history of big fires in the state and federal disaster area. But the recovery is gonna take years, and the disaster is still unfolding.
This has got to be the worst fire year, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, I think so. Our Soberanus fire was one of the most expensive in the history of the U.S. 51 homes were lost. For those 51 homeowners, it was, of course, tragic. Sure. One life was lost, a bulldozer driver, early in that fire that lasted over 3 months. But most of what burned was wilderness, and they did a heroic job keeping it out of the Carmel Valley and away from structures. But Napa, Sonoma, Mendocino, over 2,000 homes destroyed, as well as businesses. Just devastating, unprecedented.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Caltrans opened the Pfeiffer Canyon Bridge on Highway 1 Friday. The span was completely rebuilt after storms last winter cut off Big Sur from northern Monterey County, causing the bridge to sag. The new bridge was built in just 8 months, and both lanes of traffic, north and south, are fully open. Highway 1 remains closed at the Mud Creek Slide on the south end of Big Sur. Crews are still building a new road on top of the quarter-mile landslide. The Highway 1 connection to Morro Bay in San Luis Obispo County is not expected to reopen until late summer next year. State Senator Bill Monning participated in the opening ceremonies, as he told KZSC on the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club.
We'll be dedicating the reopening or the opening of the new Pfeiffer Bridge in Big Sur.
All right.
That's kind of the big fun event for the day. It's been an 8-month project. Caltrans has a new bridge project. Normally is a 7 to 8 year project from design to construction to completion. So this 8-month period broke all records.
Great. Now, where is the Pfeiffer Bridge? How far down the road do we get?
So it's just about 26 miles south of Carmel River. It's just north of Nepenthe Restaurant, just south of the Big Sur campgrounds, the Pfeiffer State Park. So with its closure for 8 months, it's divided that community. We did succeed in getting the pedestrian bypass trail built in about 6 weeks after the bridge went down, with the cooperation of state parks, and that's been the lifeline. School kids walk that trail every morning to the bus at the north side. They've actually gotten physical education credit at Carmel High School for walking the trail both ways.
Nice.
And so as of tonight at 5 p.m., there will be vehicle traffic once again connecting north to south. The Mud Creek Slide still closes Highway 1 farther south, about 40 miles south of Nepenthe, and that project's going to take until next summer to clear.
Right.
So the access from south of Nepenthe is still the Ferguson-Nacimiento Road, but that's further south. People can get down as far south as Esalen. So this will really restore access to many of the businesses south of the Big Sur Pfeiffer campgrounds. So yeah, big deal. It's an amazing engineering project. It's the first of its kind, an architecture used in Europe. They pulled the prefabricated girders across the canyon with hydraulic cables to a temporary tower that was built in the middle of the canyon and acted as the as the conveyance to move the girders across the span. And it's a single-span bridge with foundations at the north and south end. So it's quite an engineering feat. It costs the state of California about $24 million. But part of that made possible by our passage of Senate Bill 1, which guarantees $5 billion a year to transportation and infrastructure. It's overdue, and so a lot of it's going to be catch-up investment, but it does allow us to respond to storm damage from last year, including Santa Cruz, Monterey counties, which were the two hardest hit in the winter storms last year. So we seem to be playing catch-up all over the state, all over the country with response to natural disasters.
Annie Roth brings us this next story on a source of free, organic, and locally grown fresh vegetables that you might not be aware of, the beaches of Monterey Bay.
Words like organic, sustainable, and local mean a lot to consumers these days, and with good reason. Consumers have hundreds of food options to choose from, and their choices matter more than ever. Over the last decade, the local food movement has increased the transparency and traceability of our food sources, leaving many consumers with a bad taste in their mouth. Consumers are realizing local doesn't always mean organic, and organic doesn't always mean cruelty-free. Today's consumers want food they can feel good about eating. But does such a thing even exist? If you live along California's coast, it's probably growing only a few miles from your doorstep. Kombu, nori, and sea lettuce. These are just a few of the types of seaweeds growing along California's coast. During low tide, these species, along with dozens of others, become accessible to anyone with a pair of scissors and a bucket. Harvesting seaweed for personal consumption has almost zero impact on the environment. Most local species grow fast and reproduce frequently. Giant kelp, for example, can grow up to 2 feet in a single day. Eating California seaweed is not only good for the planet, it is good for you. To learn more about the benefits of eating local seaweed, I tracked down seaweed forager Ian O'Halloran, who took me to Davenport Landing Beach and showed me how he chooses which seaweeds to harvest. After sampling some of the local seaweed, we headed to American Abalone Farm, where he spoke to me between mouthfuls of sea lettuce.
The seaweed is a great local, sustainable, and healthy option that we have the ability to harvest right off our shores. The sea contains basically every mineral our body needs to thrive, just a big sink of the world, and seaweeds are bioaccumulating and growing in that environment. So not only do they have tons and tons of minerals, about every 56 vital minerals that our bodies need, but they have tons of vitamins, proteins, amino acids, you name it, it's in seaweed.
Seaweed foragers like Ian have put local seaweed on the map, and restaurants across California are taking notice. Classic dishes such as ramen, miso soup, and sushi can be made using California's local seaweed. If you are interested in bringing local seaweed into your kitchen, Ian prefers the simplest preparation.
I'd recommend trying it raw because then you really get the flavors of the plants and the textural components and flavor profiles. Then I say experiment, like blanch it, tenderize it a bit more, try a different sauce, a sauce or something you want to put on it, whether it's, baking nori in the oven and then putting some sesame seed oil on there with some sea salt, or making like a teriyaki ginger glaze and then baking that, so find your taste.
Unlike mushroom and shellfish foraging, there is little to no risk associated with seaweed foraging. Almost every species of seaweed in California is edible, and very few are toxic. If you are interested in seaweed foraging, Ian teaches a class at the New Leaf Market on the west side of Santa Cruz. For more information about seaweed foraging, visit wildlife.ca.gov.
The Municipal Water District of Southern California voted Tuesday to opt in to California Water Fix. The water wholesaler serves 19 million residents in 26 public agencies and water districts in Southern California. In making their choice, the agency agreed to pay 26% of the cost of building and operating the controversial Delta water tunnels. The vote comes shortly after the 600,000-acre Westlands Water District declined to support the project because the farmers there found the costs would outweigh the benefits of the project. The vote keeps California Water Fix on life support, but just barely. 2 other major water agencies will decide later whether to underwrite the project. Vic Bedoyan reports for Pacifica Radio from Fresno.
The meeting room was packed. Public comments were about evenly divided on whether the Municipal Water District of Southern California should take a chance on California Water Fix. It would mean a commitment to pay a quarter of the cost of building and maintaining the Delta tunnels. In the end, the Board of Directors voted 28-6 to approve the project, despite the increased cost to ratepayers. At a press conference and rally outside the MWD building in downtown Los Angeles, Brenna Norton of Food and Water Watch warned about the burden California Water Fix would impose on Southern Californians.
Despite the uncertain price tag, Metropolitan is moving forward and desperately wants to put ratepayers on the hook today. Los Angeles and most Southern California cities are planning to reduce their dependence on the Delta in favor of more cost-effective, cheaper solutions for Southern California residents. Unless the tunnels are stopped, Angelenos will be forced to pay for the construction and the operation of the tunnels and would not have the resources left to invest in more affordable solutions for Southern California.
Barbara Berrigan-Perea of Restore the Delta compares WaterFix to the momentous Owens Valley dispute, when the Los Angeles Water District, using devious maneuvers, took ownership of the Eastern Sierra watershed and its water.
You know, the effort to push forward with the Delta tunnels by the Metropolitan Water District, special interest unions, Governor Brown, business chambers, is really an effort to socialize the environmental losses and the economic losses with a $17 billion project. It's a boondoggle, while they will privatize the gains and the benefits from who will receive the water.
She pointed out that regardless of the decision, the tunnels will never be built due to major roadblocks. First, state and federal water agencies don't yet have the water rights for the new intakes. Secondly, there is a large gap in funding since Westlands and Central Valley Project users have opted out. And finally, Delta advocates will continue to file lawsuits on a variety of issues. Southern California supporters of WaterFix praised the project, saying it would offer a more reliable water supply, provide security for Delta levees from a massive earthquake, and improve the state's aging water delivery system. A recent audit by the state found that California WaterFix violated state law by hiring an apparently unqualified consultant in a no-bid process. The audit also criticized the lack of any financial plan or even a feasibility study to see if the project would pencil out. That audit is an added blow to WaterFix on top of the revelation that state and federal water agencies secretly subsidized the cost of the project's environmental study from the federal treasury to the tune of nearly $85 million. It's an expense state officials have insisted for years that only project beneficiaries would have to pay. Vic Bedoyan reporting for the KPFA News and KFCF.
Drop in at the UC Santa Cruz Arboretum on Saturday, October 21st between 2 to 5 p.m. for tours of the innovative exhibitions curated by the Institute of the Arts and Sciences at the Arboretum and Botanic Garden. Tours leave from the Arboretum Visitor Center, and you're encouraged to wear comfortable shoes and sunscreen, and bring a water bottle. If you have any questions, please email ias@ucsc.edu for more information. Sean Van Summeren, the executive director of the Pelagic Shark Research Foundation, is addressing the October 25th Surfrider meeting. You can learn about sharks in the Monterey Bay starting at 7 p.m. on the 25th at the Surfrider office at 2222 East Cliff Drive in the Santa Cruz Small Craft Harbor. CSU Monterey Bay hosts a startup hackathon at the Institute for Innovation and Economic Development starting on Friday, November 3rd at 4 p.m. Teams will compete to develop new technology-based solutions to aid in preparing for, surviving, and recovering from natural disasters. Computer engineers and designers will mentor the teams during the weekend, who will present a prototype to judges on Sunday. Space is limited. Pre-registration is required. Contact innovation at csumb.edu for more information. Thanks for tuning in to This Just In from Outdoors. Check out our stories and past shows online at newsfromoutdoors.org. I've been your host, Jeffrey Chen. The headlines were produced by Daniel Wu-Tan, Matthew Sandoval, and Samantha Racines. The Wildfires update was produced by Keith Rosendahl, and the interview with Bill Monning on the fires and the reopening of the Pfeiffer Canyon Bridge was produced by Golden Voice Jean and Myro of KZSE's Bushwhackers Breakfast Club, Fridays from 6 to 9 a.m. The interview with Ian O'Halloran and Seaweed Foraging was conducted by Annie Roth.
Did you know that Santa Cruz County is home to dozens of online news and views publications put out by dedicated local citizens and professional journalists? Needful News makes it one-click convenient to stay current with local, state, and national news and to stay in touch with your elected representatives. You can exercise your mind and your citizenship on the web by typing needful.news into your web browser.
Please stay tuned for the Pacifica Evening News, which airs on KZSC Santa Cruz every night at 6 p.m.
Just bees and things and flowers.
Now, young fellas, been having a lot of fun around here today, haven't you? You know what makes this all possible? The forest around us. We should all be thankful for our forest.
Just in from Outdoors.
Choose life. Choose a job. Choose a career. Choose a family. Choose a radio station. Choose community conversations. Choose live music, on-air interviews, and underrepresented points of view. Choose jazz, blues, rap, rock, and world music. Choose your news source. Choose 88.1 KZSC Santa Cruz.